Well, in 2020, you were supposed to come back to WWE as a commentator, but then COVID-19 happened.
Yeah, I was down. I went to the performance facility, interviewed, spent the entire day, and from what I understand, from what I gathered, did well, and it's just just luck. That was the day that the world shut down. I think March 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember those days.
And I remember being there, and once the news was saying the NBA is shutting down and this is shutting down, it was almost a mad dash because you remember how crazy it was. I mean, there was a thought in Florida that they were going to shut states down and that they weren't going to let people in and out of the state.
Yeah,
and
that was a crazy time.
Yeah, we had to make a mad dash to drive, and because I drove down to Florida, and it just get back to New Jersey.
Well, 2023, the WWE merged with the UFC.
Right.
Were you surprised that happened?
Completely. Yeah. If I could have put a bet in years ago, I would have bet every dollar I'd ever make, and times 10, that Vince would have never gotten rid of his company. I would have bet everything and been pretty confident of that bet. I still to this day can't believe that the WWE is no longer owned by a McMahon.
Well, yeah, because I remember the documentary, they talked about how he had the chance to buy the UFC for like pennies.
Pennies, yeah.
But to his defense,
and Shane wanted him to.
His son Shane wanted him to do it. But to his defense, he said, this is a different type of company. This is an actual sports league where what I do is more theatrics.
I create stars. You can try to create somebody.
No,
but
once they get in the ring, you don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Right. There's no predetermined outcome in the UFC. So at the time, I mean, look, Vince also started a football, league that went nowhere. So I'm sure some of that probably played into his decision-making process. I tried to do this football thing, it didn't work. This wrestling, this UFC thing, I memean, yeah, I'm getting it cheap, but if it all goes down, in flames, then I would have lost millions of dollars. Right. So, it made more sense because Endeavor, I think, is the one that made this merger?
Exactly, yeah. Endeavor.
Yeah, so now Vince McMahon no longer owns the company. I think that he owned like 40-something% of it.
I thought it was like 49 or something.
Yeah, like he owned a minority
He was minority for the first time.
For the first time ever.
Yeah. And
then more allegations came out, and this one woman came forward and said that, he sexually assaulted her and all this other type of stuff and shared photos with her. But although there was some stuff, I mean, it seemed like a consensual relationship, though. Do you know who this woman is at all? Or?
I don't. I never met her. I don't even know what her role was.
Yeah, I'm always, people are going to get on me about this, but it's like a lot of these situations with these lawsuits, especially when a lot of times these aren't criminal cases.
Yeah.
She never called the police and said he raped me.
Right.
It's years later. This is what happened, and I want millions of dollars.
That's the one thing that there's always money.
It's always money
attached with
now, listen,
it.
People want to say it's not a money grab. By definition, a civil lawsuit is a money grab by definition because there's no jail time associated with it. It's only about money.
I can look at a situation like this and think two things can be true.
Yes.
She could have very well have been assaulted and still be going for a money grab. Two things most definitely can be true.
As well as it could have been a completely consensual relationship that didn't work out the way. Look, men will promise to leave their wives and string women along and promise them the world just so they can get in bed with them. And then, after the orgasm comes, you feel a little bit differently.
That's the most honest moment of man's life.
Right after he busts.
Right after he nuts.
And this is the fault of the men too. Yeah. Like if men were more honest with women and told them, listen, I'm married, and we could do this on the side, but I'm not leaving my wife. You could stay or you could go.
Yeah.
I'm cool either way.
Yeah.
But you're going to have both your eyes open if you want to deal with me. And a lot of women are totally fine with that. But a lot of men aren't strong enough to put that type of message out there. And then they get caught up later on. And next thing you know, you're in a Vince McMahon situation where you're getting kicked out of your own company.
Absolutely. Yeah. it's crazy that Vince. I always thought he, if anybody, would be able to keep control of himself. And to me, to see the fact that he's lost control of who he is, that's what blows my mind the most. What's going to come? I mean, I think the legal process is going to play itself out. Again, I think we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. I think there's, and not necessarily maybe with Vince, but I think just with other people. I definitely think.
I mean, look, you're seeing it play out with Diddy now. There's over 100 people that claim that Diddy assaulted them.
Well, it's like the Epstein list.
The Epstein list.
Like, what if that list came out?
I mean, is it really an Epstein list, or was it just?
I guarantee you, there's a list of people that were on a plane with him.
Right, but being on a plane doesn't mean that they were engaging
exactly
with underage women or
2010,
girls.
Jeffrey Epstein calls me and says, "You want to go to my island?" Yup.
Yeah.
Where's the terminal? Absolutely.
I used to argue this in my interview. Like, I interviewed Dion Cole, who worked with Diddy, wrote a bunch of his stuff for the Billboard Awards, and they hung out for a couple of weeks. And it's like, if Diddy calls you at 2 a.m. to his hotel room because he's got an idea, you go to his hotel room, you see what he has to offer. Genius doesn't function on a 9 to 5 schedule. So if someone has a great idea, you go check it out. Now, if you show up and he's naked, you leave. But you know what I'm saying? But 99% of the time, like, men have their private sexual lives.
You show up to Harvey Weinstein's hotel room to talk about a movie role, and he's showering.
Yes.
Maybe
you may want to reschedule for another day. Yeah. Right.
I'll get you at a different time, Harvey.
I'll get you at a different time. Clearly you're busy. You got to clean yourself up. But like, people aren't, to hear all these people come forward and so forth, like you said, you don't know what Vince's sexual private life was.
No clue.
People don't know what your sexual private life was. It is what it is. So to have everyone say, oh, everyone knew about it. I mean, there's a new lawsuit with Diddy where this guy claims 20 years ago, Diddy and his 3 bodyguards trapped him in the back of a Macy's and made this guy give Diddy oral sex.
Well, that's convenient. It's coming out now.
Yeah, 20 years later, there's no witnesses, there's no cameras, it's a lawsuit. Well, he's already in jail, being accused of a bunch of other stuff. I'm not a big fan of this.
I'm not a fan of the pile-on. I'm not a fan of the pile-on either.
I'm not a fan of the pile-on, and I feel like if it really was a serious situation, you should have filed a police report.
Absolutely.
And once you have that, then the civil lawsuit becomes very easy. Because if you get convicted criminally, the civil lawsuit is almost automatic.
100%.
Because it's a higher degree. When it comes to a criminal suit, you have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. In a civil lawsuit, it's more likely than not.
Yeah.
So it's way harder to get a criminal conviction. But people want to go with the civil way. So listen, I've never met Vince McMahon. I don't know what he's going through, but I hope that ultimately he pulls through this because he really has a legendary career, and he's really made so many millionaires and so forth.
Vince is and will always be the greatest promoter the world's ever seen.